Hey RV family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, the review guy reviewing music for the Love of Music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the new Dorian Electra record entitled My Agenda. It is only a year after the release of their critically acclaimed absurdist pop record, Flamboyant. If you're unfamiliar with Dorian Electra, just educate yourself on this flavorful, flamboyant, amazing icon. With many people hopping on the bandwagon of sort of the PC music production style that is employed by A.G. Cook, Charlie XCX, 100 gecs, the hyper glitzy, glistening pop production that just goes all over the place and feels so scatterbrained. Dorian fit into that mold, but had enough of their own flair to cause an uproar in the scene. I personally really enjoyed Flamboyant. I enjoyed it for the way it just poked fun at a lot of norms, a lot of stereotypical things. It had a lot of topics going into it that were tackled so tastefully, but I also just really loved Dorian's personality. They had such an interesting outlook and such an interesting voice that it was hard to turn away from them. Not to mention how they injected their own flair into the sound by incorporating these baroque pop instrumentals and bubblegum bass instrumentals, or just more so allowing them to sort of cover the general aesthetic that was well accepted at this point. The singles off that record were just completely fire, and just everything about that was so fresh and so unique, even in a field that is relatively new in the general scheme of being widely accepted by the public. So with a new record coming just 1 year after, I was very excited. So there is very little about this record that isn't different from Flamboyant. When this first came out, I was getting near a trip to meet my girlfriend, so I had a lot of time to spend with this record. I listened to it quite a few times on the ride there, and I can just say this record in many ways isn't doing it for me nearly as much as Flamboyant. I understand if people feel differently from me, and I encourage you guys to discuss it, but yeah. Where to start? A lot of the collaborations just feel odd. I enjoyed some of the inclusions, such as Rebecca Black or the Village People, not to mention how just amazing it is that they got Pussy Riot from Russia, the revolutionary group, on a track is just insane, especially considering the topic of the track, My Agenda, which is basically just like an LGBTQ plus anthem. My issue with this record can boil down to two major points that are just constant. Number one, the instrumentals are not nearly as lavish as they felt a lot of times on Flamboyant, and they more so feel sort of in line with the tropes of the A.G. Cook camp that feel a lot more in line with a lot of what I hear from a lot of other artists, and don't feel nearly as much as just specifically Dorian Electra as it was on tracks like Flamboyant or Man to Man or Career Boy. There's really no tracks that feel quite similar to that, in the sense of I don't want it to sound the exact same, but just have some of the same life. Number two, the songwriting itself is insanely more simplistic, comparatively speaking, with their last record. They had the habit of really putting in some great lyricism, some really catchy one-liners, whereas on a track, say I'll just pull one out, like Sorry Bro, I Love You, it's so simplistic in comparison to what Dorian has come through with in the past. A lot of the verses play out in much more of a rudimentary fashion, a lot of them are shorter, a lot of them are much less fleshed out, and a lot of the choruses just don't hit the same energy as Flamboyant did. Tracks like Iron Fist and Barbie Boy just leave me scratching my head because the semblances are still here from Dorian's other material, but what they're doing here just feels like it's selling their potential short in a way with knowing what they are capable of doing. And I'm not necessarily disappointed in the fact that they are going into new waters and trying out some new things, but it's just the fact that they're leaving behind quite a bit of the energy and the pizzazz and the flamboyancy that was on their last record that made them feel like such a fresh force in the scene. Now, if they were part of the PC music camp, I'd just be like, yep, that makes sense. For a record called My Agenda, I had kind of hoped that they would go into more of a direction of poking more fun at gender norms, poking more fun at just everything about the culture as a whole, and just toxicity and whatever you want to say, just all of the things that they tackled so amazingly on their last record. For a title to be so bold to say My Agenda, a lot of these tracks don't feel so much as my agenda as just like my random music. There are some standout tracks on this record. Like I said, I do enjoy My Agenda, I do enjoy Edgelord, I do, even though it is simplistic, like Sorry Bro, I Love You. The Very Popular Gentleman is another great example of how simplistic Dorian has become. It's so catchy, it's earwormy, it's impossible to escape from, and for that reason, I do enjoy it. And the companion track, Milady, isn't that bad either. But what happened in terms of just the really cohesive and sometimes even poetic and witty songwriting of Dorian just a year ago? Still though, it's worth checking out if you're a fan of sort of the avant-pop, hyperpop, absurdism that is coming out of Dorian's camp and just the PC music camp. And if you weren't a fan of Dorian's first record and you more so like sort of the Charlie XCX and A.G. Cook and 100 Gex plays, you might actually like My Agenda more than you did Flamboyant. Me personally, I think I would prefer to see Dorian take this sound that they are incorporating on this record and that they're really going full force into, and combine that with their past material. That baroque instrumentation just sounded great, and it injected a new sort of spice into the formula that wasn't really being done much, and I can't lie, it was really absent on this record, and that was very apparent. Also, messaging was such a major point on Flamboyant, and here I think the messaging is quite lost. The fact that it just feels that way is a shame in my opinion. It's such a shame for someone that is so interlaced with just trans culture, non-binary culture, gender fluid culture, and just queer culture as a whole, sort of this iconic figure not being able to tackle nearly as many topics as they did on their very first record. Definitely some of the inspirited lyricism on that record are just lost here. It is a letdown, I'm not gonna lie. As someone that was really interested in Dorian Electra and just identified a lot with their messaging and identified a lot with their lyricism, their songwriting, and everything that they incorporated into their music, I can easily say that this was a disappointment, and it hurts me to say that. I'm going to be giving this album a 6 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Dorian Electra record, My Agenda? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss this record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.